The two best Terran players in the world are facing off against each other in a best-of-2 series of StarCraft 2. I'm very excited to introduce to you in the top right-hand corner of a map called Cyclone. Playing with the blue Terran SCVs, we have a man who's been dominating the StarCraft 2 scene over in South Korea for the better part of literally a decade. We have none other than Maru. His opponent, though, in the opposite corner, the Terran player on fire from France, winning the most recent premier tournament in StarCraft 2, we have none other than Clem. Now, historically speaking, as Maru, by the way, is sending out what seems to be two SCVs towards the other side of the map. Gas on the back of this too, so he's gonna go for a little bit of a Reaper cheese, it looks like. Okay. Anyways, historically speaking, Maru's Terran versus Terran has been his strongest matchup. At the very least, in my mind, the man doesn't really lose Terran versus Terran. On the flip side, Clem's Terran versus Protoss, absolutely ridiculous. His Terran versus Zerg, best in class. However, his Terran versus Terran does seem to be his weakest matchup overall. Now, weakest, of course, between a couple quotation marks, because he's still very, very good, and he does still win the majority of his games. But when going up against Maru, I find it a very difficult prediction to make. Yeah, Maru has not been quite as impressive as his proxy, by the way, does get scouted. Maybe not as impressive is maybe not the right way to say it, but he has looked more mortal over the last 6 months or so, and Clem just seems to be on another level. So, yeah, they're currently... Oh, that's a mistake. That's actually a pretty sloppy mistake, too. They're currently the number 1 and 2 Terrans in the world, but I honestly find it quite hard to say who the current number 1 and 2 Terrans are, you know? Is it Maru, who's the very best Terran at the moment? Or is it Clem? Now, this may be blasphemous, because I know there is a very passionate fan club of Maru fans out there, but I would actually say that Clem is currently the more impressive Terran. Yeah. Anyways, scouting that proxy is really nice, because he's going to be able to indeed get those bunkers going. It is a quick double gas opener here for the Frenchman. So he's going to be able to get that factory out momentarily. Factories are absolute key in this matchup lately, especially. Not just for siege tank production anymore, not just for Hellions, but in particular for Cyclones. So that is what Clem is certainly going to try and rush out. Reaper production, rather. Not the Reaper... What was I going to say? Condition? That doesn't make any sense. Reaper production is going to continue. Nice back and forth here, but ultimately, yeah, Maru must realize that this is not going his way at all. Cyclone is on the horizon and needs to get something done before that factory unit is out. In the meantime, at home, he has started up his own factory as well. This is double gas, but of course, yeah, neither player really committing to a lot of economy. The downside for Maru is that those barracks are gonna have to fly home. At the very least, one of them is gonna have to fly back home, and any sort of tech on the back of it is gonna be very slow. It's not that big of a commitment, though. Okay. What he really wants is kill SCVs, but so far he's not really getting a whole lot done. One of the Reapers here falls for Maru. Cyclone is out. Jimmy, are you gonna get... Okay. Jimmy did not want to go back to the bunker. Apparently, he wanted to go down with the ship, even though this game is far from over. Alright, so Clem holds. Not a bad early game right here for the Frenchman, but of course, this is by no means a game-winning position, and that's the real problem, right? So I would say that Maru is probably the best turtle Terran in the world. The guy is very good at not dying, which sounds like an easy skill, but if you've ever played SC2, you know how incredibly hard it is. So even though this early game does go in favor of the Terran in red, overall it's a relatively small advantage. He does get the full scout right here, so he will figure out, okay, this is exactly what I'm playing against. Third command center on the back of this too right now for Clem, and that one will not get scouted by that barracks. In the meantime, Maru also opening up quick triple CC. The main advantage right here for Clem at the moment is the fact that he's got, well, slightly higher tech than his opponent, right? That's nice. But he's also got this barracks that his opponent needs to fly back home. So any sort of like Stimpeg research or anything along those lines, it's, yeah, not gonna be quite as fast for Maru. Now, by the way, with the most recent StarCraft 2 balance patch, they overhauled the Cyclone, right? And the intention for the unit was for it to be more popular in Terran versus Protoss, and maybe a little too in Terran versus Zerg, because Battle Mech, not a very commonly played style. Now, it turns out we rarely see any Cyclones in Terran versus Protoss, and we, well, seldomly see them in Terran versus Zerg as well. The one matchup where they get made every single game is Terran versus Terran. I don't think this was the original intention, and I'm not entirely sure how much of a fan Terrans really are of the unit rework, but yeah, TVT, if you haven't seen a lot of Terran versus Terran as of late, and I don't really upload a lot of those videos, so I can't blame you if you are not 100% up to date on the meta of TVT, but just know that the unit is very popular in this matchup at the moment. So the lock-on range, of course, has been changed. And yeah, because of that, these medevacs can fly around quite easily. Reapers are chilling in the bunker. Okay, I was wondering where they were. Normally, this would be the opportunity for them to maybe go back into the opponent's bases. Either way. Okay, yeah. I think... Nah, I think they are indeed sneaking away there to try and maybe see if they can get some damage done on the other side of the map. So... these units obviously move at the exact same speed, so once the lock-on happens, you can't really retreat very easily, and that's where this medevac comes in. Actually, everything has been sent across the map right now for Clem. He doesn't have a whole lot at home to defend at the moment. He's got nothing at home to defend at the moment. Okay, these Reapers are actually going to be able to put in a lot of work. Cyclone is, or sorry, Raven here is out. We should see a turret being popped down. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, okay, nice pickup control right there by Clem. Trying to kill a bunch of workers. Hello, Mr. Raven? Oh, no. Clem probably assumed he loses a Cyclone in the meantime in his opponent's natural to a siege tank. I think he assumed that he popped down that auto turret already. What just happened here for Clem? That was actually surprisingly sloppy. That first SCV that went down over here, and now an additional 8. An additional 8 SCVs just fell to 2 Reapers. What the heck? Okay, well, that will be a start that I think Maru is now relatively happy with. You probably didn't like the fact that he got scouted, and his stim pack here is going to be super late. His upgrades are by no means something to write home about either, but yeah, economically speaking at the very least, that does put him in a good position. Cyclones once more coming across. Losing one of those Cyclones as well to the siege tank, not quite ideal. So one thing to note is that Clem does seem to be a player, and I'm just hypothesizing here, but this is just an observation that I've made. I may be entirely wrong, but I feel like Clem is much better when he's playing without any ping. So he's a very micro-heavy Terran, so he loves controlling his units. But obviously when you have a South Korean player going up against somebody who's over in France, usually the games get played on a server where both of them have an even amount of ping. And usually what that comes down to is either Central America or like, I think, America West. Anyways, what that means is that both of them probably are playing with a ping of between 150 to maybe 180 or so. That is a pretty significant delay. And I feel like Clem, ooh, he does go for a drop right now. Is this a little too aggressive? One of the siege tanks right there for Maru gets disabled right there with the interference matrix. Auto turrets putting in so much work. Yeah, Clem is going to be forced to retreat. Okay. Anyways, I feel like Clem is one of those players who benefits from lower ping. Or maybe he has a deficit from higher pings, more so than other top-tier pro gamers. Armory coming up, so Maru is going to be able to go straight into the 2-2. Combat Shields starts up right here for both players. We're going to need to see a Armory here as well momentarily for Clem, because otherwise he is going to be hindered with his 2-2 production, and that is a very critical set of upgrades for this matchup, so there's that Armory coming up. Both players should be able to transition towards additional upgrades here pretty smoothly. Alright. Yeah, so the early game of this matchup currently, it's all about Cyclones and Ravens. You don't want to lose any Ravens if you can at all avoid it. Nice drop right here for Maru, getting more SCV kills in. One Raven has gone down on the side of Clem. Great drop. Yeah, really nice drop. Oh, okay. Not bad. Okay, he actually got both medevacs. That's huge. Not bad at all right there. By Clem. Okay, Maru. Moving across the map once again, it seems. This time around with whatever unit he's got. So, Interference Matrix is a very important ability. So, it now has to be researched in... Oh, I don't love this here for Clem. Not a fan of that at all. His main army is looking a lot scarier. Anyways, Interference Matrix, it's an ability on the Raven that needs to be researched that allows you to temporarily... there you go. That was a difficult word today. It allows you to temporarily disable your opponent's units. And it most notably gets used on, well, for example, medevacs, but also siege tanks. Maru fighting his opponent back here. Siege tanks sieging up once more. Do we have enough right here for Maru to stim in? He does decide to make that move, but his marine numbers are just not quite there. Looks like Clem is going to be able to jump some of those siege tanks in blue, and he does clean all of this up once more. This is a very difficult game to read right now. Normally you've got a bit of a feeling as to where you're at and how many units your opponent currently has, but that is not something that these guys are easily able to do. 4th Command Center finishes up right here for Maru. It's only just now started here for Clem. Clem does, however, have a significant supply lead as SCVs actually get pulled down to the low ground. Maru wants to shut this down ASAP. He does not have energy right here for Interference Matrix, but those auto turrets from the Ravens are still putting in a lot of work. That's 22 workers going down, and a Raven on the tail end of that engagement too. Alright. A lot of TVT gets played quite passively, but you can tell that both of these guys are not down to play a passive game. They're going for the throat every single time. Careful. Okay. Well, now this is a really good position here for Clem. Absolutely. The only thing he doesn't have going for himself is that, well, set of upgrades. That's ever so slightly later than his opponents, but I think that's something he can overcome. Although if Maru can force an engagement when he has got 2-2 done and it's not yet available for Clem, that would be an overwhelming win for him, but yeah, it's very difficult to pull that off. Plus, Maru does have a faster 4th Command Center. So upgrades and eco-wise, not a terrible game for Maru. He just doesn't have the numbers. And very frequently, StarCraft 2 is a numbers game. Clem, though, is feeling the heat here. He's noticed that there's no sensor tower anymore in this location, so he's thinking about going around the site. There's one missile turret set up in the main base, but all of these units going into the main base. They even have like a Viking escort here too. Looks like Clem is going to be able to get that drop in. Everything will unload, and those siege tanks are going to be able to siege up. At the same time, there's a group of reinforcing units here as well, ready to move to the front. I think Clem is hoping that he can distract his opponent in the main base and then push over at the 3rd base too. I think we can go. Okay, well, he just wants to fight over here. It's a little too slow for my liking. Yeah, ultimately, these units are going to have to retreat, but here's those reinforcements showing up. A lot of the Terran units are yet available in the main base. Siege tanks are sieged up right now. Not a lot of tanks anymore here for Maru. One of them gets targeted down. Brilliantly done right there by Clem. 23 additional SCVs go down, and apparently that's all that Maru is willing to lose. He decides to tap out. It's Clem who wins game number 1, but not in the prettiest of fashions. Okay, our second game for today, it takes place on the map Oceanborn. Now, I believe I mentioned this at the beginning of this video, but this is a best of 2 series. So best of 2s, it's from the WTL. A lot of the games I've been casting as of late are from the World Team League. They use a best of 2 format rather than a best of 3, meaning that this particular series can end with a 1-1 score. A little anticlimactic for a YouTube video, but you know what? It is what it is. Double gas once again here for Clem. Double gas as well inside of the main base of Maru. Yeah, so you kind of need to do this. In order to get that factory out at a reasonable time, you kind of need to go for the double gas start. You can, of course, make an expansion on the low ground too, but it's just so risky, especially on a map where you don't have a ramp to defend this low ground area here, right? So a lot of maps will have a ramp leading from the main base down to the natural, and then another ramp leading down from the natural to, I guess, the playable area of the map. Oceanborn is flat right over here, so any sort of cyclone pushes are very difficult to hold. I'm fully expecting a very normal start here from both players, and a normal start in the current meta is indeed Cyclones. I do still think it's very ironic, though, that the Cyclone got overhauled primarily for Terran versus Protoss, and yeah, maybe to a lesser extent for Terran versus Zerg as well, and then the matchup where it gets used pretty much exclusively is TVT. Oh well, oh well, oh well. It is what it is. Hey, so now that the new Cyclone has been around for a little while, right? It's been, yeah, a good couple months. Which version of the unit do you prefer? Let me know down below in the comment section. I actually think I may prefer the older version of the unit. Yeah. I mean, there's still some novelty to seeing the new version of it, and I don't suggest we should change it back, but it really doesn't seem to be that impactful, and Maybe there's still some undiscovered territory, right? That is certainly a thing. There's still a chance that there are build orders. Like, build orders in StarCraft 2 can take years to develop. I know that may sound a little strange if you mostly watch other esports out there, but there's a lot of moving parts, and sometimes it takes certain meta shifts and certain map layouts for certain build orders to be used, and there certainly is a chance that we will see a lot more Cyclone play in the future, whereas the previous one, all of the juice got squeezed out of it, you know? Anyways, Clem right here, trying to get a hit on his opponent's Reapers. One of the SCVs already fell. Command center here, maybe ever so slightly delayed, but nothing really to write home about. You can see that the supply, or sorry, the production tab right here for both of these players is essentially identical. Slightly faster reactor here for Clem. But you can see that the units tab, yeah, everything is essentially the same. So there's a lot of skill checks in this matchup. You try to throw a couple of units at your opponent just to, yeah, see if they can handle it. And if they don't handle it, the game is quite literally over. You lose a Reaper early on. That means that it snowballs out of control very quickly. Because, say for example, with those 2 Reapers that Clem sent across the map, one of the Reapers right here for Maru would have fallen. That would have meant the SCV building the command center would have fallen, and then, well, Maru does not have an expansion. It's essentially game over. So there's a lot of little skill checks that we take for granted at this level of play. But that also explains why a lot of ladder games in SC2 just are over in a heartbeat. You make one error, that can be it. Quick third gas taken here by both players. That is specifically for the Raven production. Again, a unit that we have seen changes to, primarily to affect TVP. We never really see it in Terran versus Zerg. Very commonly played though in Terran versus Terran. That boost obviously helping out quite a bit. Yeah, Maru thinking about boosting after that medevac too. I don't mind it at all. So 72 health on both of those medevacs. That is just ever so slightly over 50% of damage dealt here to both of those medevacs. So you gotta be very careful. Only a few of those Cyclone missiles would be enough. So both players are gonna go back home. And I think they will repair these units back up to full health. There's the interference matrix coming up. I guess this has had a bit of an effect in Terran versus Protoss. We don't see it being used as commonly. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the changes with the most recent patch have been relatively minor. I really believe that the most significant overhaul that we had with the most recent balance patch is the Baneling nerfs. They get used in every Zerg game, and even though it's not really something that a lot of players discuss, I really feel like the double nerf to the Baneling has hit a lot harder than most of the unit overhauls. Yeah. Maybe I'm greedy, because over the last couple of years, we've only had a handful of updates to the balance of the game, but I am ready for another balance patch. Maybe after Katowice, it would be nice to have some more balance changes once again. Maybe some new maps, I mean, I'd be down for it. Anyways. This patch is certainly not fully figured out yet, but I've kind of enjoyed the freshness of strategies. A lot of Cyclones, by the way. Yeah, we get some proper Cyclone wars. Stimpack is coming up. It looks like Mr. Maru, though, has decided to double down on the factory production here, as he's made a second factory. So this is going to be a bit of a tech transition here. Clem is trying to go from Cyclones into Marines. So he's getting that Stimpack upgrade going, and he's ready to prepare himself for a infantry-based mid-game with triple barracks. Maru seems to be playing Battle Mech. So he's getting himself that new upgrade, the Hurricane Thrusters. That's the movement speed upgrade for those Cyclones. He is gonna go mass Cyclone. Now, is it enough? We don't have siege tanks or anything available yet. Look at all of those auto turrets being dropped to the ground as well. Obviously, interference matrices in these particular engagements not nearly as useful once they're... Yeah, once there are siege tanks out, maybe you want to mix it in, but... That was an important hold right there for Clem. That entire fight took about 3 seconds. But that could have been an absolute disaster. 2 Ravens fell on both sides. Looks like Clem did end up losing 1 less Cyclone throughout this game. But obviously Maru is not done yet. Stimpack at this point is finished, however. Yeah, I don't think there's quite enough numbers at the moment. Maru would kill a lot of SCVs if Clem decides to commit here. I don't think he should. I think backing off just for a second is a good idea. Maybe create a little bit of a distraction over here. Double gas is immediately taken over at the third base as well of Maru. Okay. Looks like both players, by the way, are warmed up. No sloppy errors at the very least in this particular match. Reaper from the early game still available, ready to lead the charge. Maru really wants to get this medevac, but the medevac has actually decided to go on over towards the bottom right-hand corner. It's important that he does not get caught out of position. Siege tank available right now, and like I mentioned, Stimpack, of course, is done here for Clem. As a matter of fact, he's just about to finish up 1-1. He's killing a bunch of SCVs right now in the main base, creating a distraction, though. At the same time, push over here. This is taking place just a few seconds before those infantry upgrades are done. A lot of the biological army here for the player in red has already fallen, but it looks like Clem is breaking through a lot of this. He does kill his opponent's siege tank. 16 SCVs were killed as well by Clem. And like a house of cards, suddenly it's all crumbling down right here for Maru. He's lost that Cyclone army that you kind of want to get that tempo advantage, right? It takes minutes to build up. He's lost that Cyclone army. He's forced to now go into siege tanks and just a slower moving force instead. Plus, he lost so many SCVs to this front push, but then also the Cyclones in the main base. Clem outpacing, outcontrolling. I mean, I was gonna call him old, but Maru is like 25. Oh well. Clem's certainly of a newer generation of pro gamer, though. Maybe 25 is ancient in StarCraft terms. I actually don't know exactly how old Maru is. Should I look it up? I hope I have time. Maru, Liquipedia. I think he's either 25 or 26. Born in 1997 is what it says on Liquipedia. That would make him 26 at the moment. Yeah. So he's born on July 28th. Okay. It is cool, though, how we have, like, a newer generation of pro gamer coming up. Like, if you compare this to guys like, for example, Clem. So Clem was born in the year 2002. Clem was, like, 7 when StarCraft came out. StarCraft 2, that is. He wasn't born when StarCraft 1 came out. Do you feel old yet? That is kind of wild to me. I've had conversations with younger pro gamers who are unfamiliar with the Mothership core. Like, these guys are professional gamers. And they just aren't, like, they're not... They weren't around for the, you know, early history of StarCraft 2. And I can imagine a lot of viewers here for this video are maybe also not familiar with it. But, like, in my mind, that makes me feel very old. Because I specifically remember buying StarCraft Wings of Liberty when it came out. I think I was, like, 18. Anyways. We get generational StarCraft pros, which is honestly a really cool thing. The fact that there's still guys in like their late teens and early 20s improving in the game is amazing. Now it looks like, by the way, Maru has managed to stabilize. Yep. He's taken a lot of losses. He's been smacked in the face a bunch of times, but he's still in this game. And that's an important part. He is ultimately going for the more powerful unit composition, right? So notice all of the Thors coming up, Widow Mines, Vikings. He's got a load of siege tanks. He is going for that turtle style. And I believe I mentioned it earlier. He's very good when it comes to playing that turtle style. Clem is going to have to take a, at least a chance. Yeah, he needs to stim through some of those siege tank lines, because you do not want to give your opponent the 4th base for free. He's thinking about coming in from the right side of the map. Scan over there does reveal where most of those siege tanks are located. Maru only has 1 tank controlling this section of the map. Marines and Marauders stimming towards the natural expansion mineral line. They're going to be able to go after one of the Thors. Thor does get snatched up, though, into the sky. A lot of SCVs are falling. Marines are being sacrificed. Clem is taking the Zergy approach in this particular matchup, where he's the one with the bigger economy, he's the one with the expendable army, and he is ready to sacrifice some of his units to keep his opponent's economy small. So we're now 12 minutes in. At the 12-minute mark, Terran players will start running out of their mineral fields in the main base as well as in the natural even. So, yeah, those mules, very nice for quick mining. Not so good, though, when it comes to your long-term sustainability of bases. Okay, Maru is going to try and take a shot right now at taking the 4th expansion over here instead. In the meantime, we have command center after command center after command center after command center for Clem. So he is prepared to play against a 4-base Maru. But he has been trying to avoid this. Okay, I think after building all of these CC, he's gonna give... Well, I thought he was gonna give up on it. I don't think he can really deny this base. It's very easy here for Clem to stim in and just lose everything to a bunch of siege tank shells. Okay, medevac drop once again. Looks like there is a weakness here. This sensor tower is ever so slightly too far up north. There is no vision here from Maru at the bottom of the map. He has seen units here at the top. But that means that these medevacs are unscouted going into the main base here. There they come. Clem is boosting forward. Maru completely caught off guard. And look how far these units are. Do you want to unsiege these tanks right now and then, well, risk it against that more mobile army? This is the soft underbelly of Maru, though. This is where all of his units are being born, right? That's what happens in the factory. 3rd base also ever so slightly exposed. Clem at the very least trying to take a chance. Moving forward, outpacing his opponent. Marines here, hitting some of those SCVs on the low ground as well. Okay. More command centers are coming up, by the way, for Clem. So he's going mass command center. +3/+3 has just started up for the young Frenchman. Wow, really? I can't blame Maru for this GG, but it does feel a little early. He still has 140 supply. He just secured his 4th base. He's got decent upgrades and decent economy. But he must have realized at this point that he's facing a Terran player who's just about to outgrow him, right? Clem pretty much maxed out here, getting 3 upgrades going already. And he's got about a dozen command centers done. Clem wipes the floor with Maru in what is considered to be his worst matchup.